Coming up on Mornings on the Hill, students reflect on a year of college with COVID-19 protocols.
Also, updates on the Chase Scanlon investigation and what his arrest means going forward.
And a sense of normalcy returns to the New York State Fairgrounds.
All that, plus your weather and orange sports, coming up on this edition of Mornings on the Hill.
Good morning, I'm Dan Baldwin. Thanks for joining us for Mornings on the Hill.
And I'm Doug Cortez. Let's get to our top story. This year was like no other. Students had to quickly adapt to a new reality. Our Kayla Britt spoke to two students who tell us about their campus life experience during the pandemic.
This was a piece of Emily Karp's Syracuse experience last year. No COVID-19, no worries. The pandemic took a lot of fun away.
It took away a lot of that social aspect that you get from college, that it's kind of just being taken away from you and you have no control over it.
Brianna Okmalama is also in Greek life and works at People's Place. She says she misses the simple social interactions the job used to bring.
Friends of staff could kind of like walk in and hang out behind the register and talk and interact while people were working. And because of COVID, that got limited.
Both students also had to adjust to hybrid and virtual learning. Karp says this wasn't easy at first.
I knew that I wanted to be in a stable routine, and that totally messed up my routine. And so I had to figure out other places to work. And I think that it put a lot of pressure on a lot of students.
Pressure eased with time and brought personal growth.
Mobile and resilient. So I really easily adaptable to things like this. And I don't have to be stagnant to one place when things change. So
I'm stronger than I actually am, and actually more independent than I thought that I was. You never really realize how hard a situation is going to be unless you're in it.
And being in it made both students stronger. For the last time from Syracuse, Caleb Britt, Mornings on the Hill.
And as we wrap up the semester, COVID cases on campus are still low. It's the 5th consecutive day the university has reported no new positive cases. Currently, there are only 5 active student cases here in CNY. Our reporter Rob Flax has more on those COVID numbers on campus and throughout the state of New York.
Well, that's right. Cases here on campus are in the single digits. And if we take a look at that dashboard, it's because of how compliant they are with the vaccine. Syracuse University has a very high rate of the amount of students that are in the vaccine. And only 5 people with active cases. One of those is out of state. Now, guys, the last time the numbers looked like this, it was actually before students were even on campus back there to start the fall semester back in August of this year. But things weren't always this easy for this school. We did have to close multiple times. However, many people didn't think Syracuse would even be able to stay open at all. Many schools in the SUNY system closed actually within days of opening. That drop in cases is credited again to the vaccine, but it's also why Governor Cuomo is mandating that all SUNY students have to get the vaccine. Let's take a listen.
No excuses. SUNY and CUNY boards will require vaccinations for all in-person students coming back to school in the fall. You must have a vaccine to come back in September.
Now he went on to say he strongly recommends that private universities do get them as well. And Governor Cuomo's conferences have also become quite a big staple of this year. His change in guidance coming from that office and the acceptable number of cases we were allowed to have really changed what the university could respond to, a response that was designed to keep cases in the county at large down as well. Now, many thought that having SU in Onondaga County would not be possible without a huge spike of cases endangering the community, but Syracuse stayed open and cases were about average, and now they're dipping far below that average with the amount of vaccinated students we have.
Coming the fall of 2021, the university is introducing a new meal plan for students. Students can select a block meal plan, meaning they'll be able to use dining center meal swipes at their own pace throughout the semester. There are 3 different block plans students can choose from, which roughly correspond to the current 14, 10, and 5 meals per week that students choose throughout this year. The university is also rolling out an unlimited meal plan option where students can swipe into any campus dining center as often as they would like. Students can now start making their meal plan selection for next year.
Syracuse lacrosse star Chase Scanlon was arrested by Syracuse police on Friday for a criminal mischief charge. Mornings on the Hill reporter Brendan Scanlon is live to break down the latest. Brendan.
Guys, Scanlon was arrested at Manley Fieldhouse on Friday on criminal mischief charges in the 4th degree, which are a Class A misdemeanor. He was arraigned late Friday and then released. So some of the latest that we know now is that the charge stems from Scanlon's alleged involvement in a domestic violence incident on South Campus on April 18th. According to the police report, Scanlon destroyed a phone during the incident. We still have no statement from Scanlon or his attorney, and there are also statements now from witnesses in that police report that point to alleged previous verbal and physical altercations in what is sort of being seen as an on and off again relationship. And here are some of the things that we already know. Scanlon was suspended from the team on April 20th, reinstated April 26th, and then suspended again after that arrest on Friday. The lacrosse team did threaten to walk off the practice field a few weeks back, and it's important that we also understand the Title IX implications at play here. I spoke with Michael McAllister, who's been covering the Scanlon story for allsyracuse.com on the Sports Illustrated network, and he breaks down the role of Title IX as well as the lacrosse team's response. Have a listen.
I know there's been some chatter about failure from the administration standpoint. I don't think that's the case. I think they were following Title IX protocol. And Title IX protocol is such that until a student athlete is charged with something, basically they're allowed due process. And so you can't just suspend them because there were allegations.
What does the team's sort of stance on this, as far as the team stating they didn't want to show up to practice, they weren't going to do this? What does that kind of say about the issue at hand here?
Locker rooms, teammates, etc., are generally very forgiving of a lot of things. So to see an entire team threaten to walk off the practice field if he shows up tells me that, one, they probably know a lot of what the details were or were being alleged, and that they were taking a stand against, what those details would represent.
All details stemming from the alleged incident on April 18th are at this point still allegations, and this is still an ongoing investigation. As we know, Scanlon has not been found guilty on any of the charges yet, and he is scheduled to appear in court on July 13th. For Mornings on the Hill, I'm Brendan Scanlon.
Coming up here on Mornings on the Hill, the New York State Fairgrounds have been home to COVID testing for months, but this summer the fair is returning. See how some of the vendors are preparing for the reimagined State Fair.
Also coming up,
the sun is in NYC, but is it here to stay? Stay with us for those stories and much more here on Mornings on the Hill.
Switching to weather, Troy Rose tells us what to expect the next 5 days. Anything good, Troy?
Syracuse had light rain last night, but this morning the sun is out, with temperatures getting up to the mid-60s today with the low of 40. Glancing over to tomorrow, the sun will continue to shine and the temperature will stay around the same within the 60s during the evening, or during the day, and in the evening down into the 40s. Now moving to the weekend, it does get better. The temperatures will move up into the 70s. On Sunday, it'll get to 72. So make sure you guys utilize outside, go for a run, shoot some hoops, whatever you need to do, but save the jackets and the hoodies until the evening, because it'll again get back down into the 40s. And we know that the summer's quickly approaching, so make sure you stay tuned with Mornings on the Hill as we continue to bring you weather updates. I'm Troy Rose, back to the studio.
This summer, New Yorkers are getting one step closer to normalcy. The New York State Fair is back, and Adriana Rosas Rivera tells us what's new and what will stay the same.
After COVID-19 caused last year's event to be canceled, the 2021 Great New York State Fair is shaping up as an in-person event. Governor Cuomo announced a reimagined state fair following COVID-19 guidance from the Department of Health. The plan is for admission to be limited to 50% capacity, and social distancing and masks will be required.
So these are general operating principles. They will be revised between now and August. And if things keep going the way they're going, they will be revised up. more capacity, more flexibility.
Vendors have not been given specific guidance, but Beacon Skiff Apple Hill and Sales General Manager Donnie Dixie said the state has been communicative through the process.
I think as they see more, and obviously I believe things are getting, moving in the right direction. So I think we'll be getting some clear guidelines pretty soon.
Dixie said vendors were sent a questionnaire from the state asking if they were interested in participating in this year's fair. Beacon Skiff is already planning to be at the event. And as vendors confirm participation, the State Fair has started announcing their entertainment lineup, which includes REO Speedwagon and Melissa Etheridge. All concerts are free with fair admission. The fair is set to run from August 20 to September 6 at the New York State Fairgrounds in Syracuse. Tickets will cost $3 and children 12 and under are admitted for free. For Mornings on the Hill, I'm Adriana Rosas Rivera.
A retired university professor who was certainly a recognizable face on campus pays homage to his legacy at SU and his wife. Reporter Ricky Sayer tells us this one love story.
This was extremely difficult. I'll show you how I did it.
A good teacher knows how to grab students' attention.
Another moment of truth is coming, and that truth is live from UUTV. It's the BioAnswer Show.
Marvin Druger taught biology at Syracuse University for 47 years, always throwing students something exciting.
It's the Druger jump! We're in the center! All the BioMass!
He's lived through campus history, learning more along the way. His wife suggested he start giving tours. Steve Sartori took a picture of what happened next.
I mean, he stopped there in pouring rain, and, he'd sit there with an umbrella, and everybody, he'd have probably about 50 people around him.
Professor Druger's popularity still felt today. His name is on bricks, classrooms, even trees.
And they can look at the tree and ponder.
But he's no longer there to give answers. The pandemic pressing the pause button.
I haven't done anything since the COVID. That was a real blow to me personally.
He can't take you to this spot where he watched President Johnson deliver his Gulf of Tonkin speech.
Aggression unchallenged is aggression unleashed.
Or just stop to explain how he's the reason benches were brought to campus. He's not around to share those stories in person anymore, but that doesn't mean the stories won't outlive him. He wrote them down to make sure they do.
He's got a lot of great stories. So it's going to be more than a tour book.
One story written on that brick. A story he did outlive.
It says, Patricia and Marvin Druger in celebration of 40 years of love and marriage. And I told her about it, and she said, that's very nice, but then you'll have to give me a new brick every year. So I changed it.
She might have settled for a star. Patricia loved the old Holden Observatory on the Syracuse campus.
They have a beautiful telescope there, but they couldn't use it because the gear broke and they couldn't open the door to look out.
So his wife suggested a donation to restore the building.
I said, wait a minute, we gave enough donations. I said, the physics department runs the astronomy thing, not the biology department. Forget it. And so she forgot it.
Her husband did not. A few years later, Marvin did give a donation. The telescope was restored, but Patricia missed the celebration.
She worked with me. I'm sorry. She worked with me all my life. And she really made me what I am.
They were married for 57 years.
She died in 2014. And it was the worst thing that ever happened to me.
He placed a poem about a flower next to her picture.
It was here for just an instant, but then it went away. I wish this lovely lily could have stayed just one more day.
The best of her lives on in him. What they shared is deeply rooted. A love for campus, a love for teaching, and a love for each other. In Syracuse, Ricky Sayer, NCC News.
Still to come here on Mornings on the Hill.
Both the men's and women's lacrosse teams are going dancing. See how the teams are preparing for their trip to the NCAA tournament.
After 2 long years of waiting, it's time for Syracuse lacrosse to go dancing once again. Good morning, I'm James Cargan. The SU men's and women's lacrosse teams both learned their NCAA tournament fate on Sunday. And while the women come in with title aspirations, the men were just happy to see their name called. John Desco's men are unseeded going into the tournament, where they will battle 5th seed Georgetown in College Park, Maryland on Saturday. The Orange lead the all-time series against the Hoyas 17-5, but still have the shadow of the Chase Scanlon saga looming over them. Syracuse will play in its 36th NCAA tournament out of the last 37, but they're just 2-4 as an unseeded team. The winner will take on either 4th-seed Virginia or Bryant in the second round as Syracuse looks for its first Final Four appearance since 2013. It's been a season with many emotional highs and lows for the SU women's lacrosse team, from winning 8 games against top 10 opponents to losing stars Emily Harischuk and Megan Carney for the season with injuries. Now, despite these setbacks, Gary Gates women are in position to try and go to a place they've never been before, the top. The Orange earned the 3rd overall seed in the bizarre 29-team tournament and have a bye into the second round where they will play either Hofstra or Loyola. Syracuse already defeated Loyola this year 18-6 in the season opener, and they've not played Hofstra since 2008. The Orange have reached the Final Four in 5 of the last 8 tournaments, but are still looking for their first national championship. They will likely have to meet some familiar foes to get there, as 4 of the top 5 seeds come from the ACC. SU's tournament opener is set for Sunday afternoon at the Dome. Now, some athletes choose to play only one sport growing up because they believe playing other sports would cause a distraction and increase the risk of injury. This week, our Samantha Croston tells us about an SU women's lacrosse player who disagrees, saying that playing multiple sports growing up is what made her a better athlete.
You probably know this Emma Ward.
Finds Cockrell, the extra pass to Ward, who goes low.
A rising star on the Syracuse women's lacrosse team who's always a threat to cage. But what you might not know is that before Ward was scoring goals, she was scoring touchdowns.
I played running back, I played quarterback, and I played middle linebacker. And when I was younger, I definitely loved playing middle linebacker because I loved running around and hitting people on defense.
So much so that when she watched her first lacrosse game on TV, her first thought was,
I'm not playing, they don't hit each other.
Luckily for the Orange, Ward gave lacrosse a second chance and it became her sport of choice. But to this day, she still sees her football background translate onto the lacrosse field, especially in
my run through the wall kind of attitude, being tough as nails, like not willing to back down from anyone or anything.
Ward hung up the football pads for good in 7th grade. But she knew it was important for her to continue playing sports besides lacrosse.
If I was only to play lacrosse year-round, I would have burned out years ago.
In high school, Ward was a 3-sport athlete: soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and lacrosse in the spring. Whereas some people view other sports as distractions from their main one, Ward felt that playing other sports made her a better athlete, with each sport bringing something different to her life. In soccer, her coach asked her to try playing goalie. The message there was
being able to adapt and learn and serve a different role on a team than you're expecting.
On the basketball court, Ward was reminded not to take things too seriously.
I could go 0 for 12 shooting during a basketball game and I come off the court laughing because it's just it was fun to me and it reminded me that I'm still a kid and my main purpose of playing sports is to have fun.
It's these values taken from experiences in other sports, grit, adaptability, and optimism that have made Ward a more well-rounded athlete and a better lacrosse player.
Being able to have these new experiences and adapt and learn different things from different sports is what makes you grow as an athlete. And then once you find what you were passionate about, you're able to take all these different aspects and put them into one sport, like how I was able to do with lacrosse.
And with every hit, save, and shot, Ward has come one step closer to reaching her ultimate goal: helping Syracuse win a national championship. Samantha Croston, Mornings on the Hill.
Coming up after the break, COVID may have taken away in-person concerts, but entertainment on campus still.
Here at WAER, we're committed to bringing you stories about the Syracuse community. But we know you're busy. You may not always be able to tune into the radio at exactly the right time. So now we're getting you the stories you want, however you want them, whenever you want them. Whether it's through the NPR One app, on our website, or live on air, we're finding new ways to make sure you're getting the quality journalism you deserve. It's never been easier to access reporting you trust and care about.
Welcome back to Mornings on the Hill. Joining us live in studio is our Natalie Fahmy to recap the way entertainment has had to adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Doug, it is no secret at all that a lot has changed in the past year, and that does not stop at all things entertainment. Here on campus, we have had to adapt in order to have fun safely. More than a year ago, we hosted our first virtual entertainment event, and from there, the floodgates opened. We have had everything from guest speakers such as Dan Levy joined students via Zoom to socially distant silent discos on the quad. COVID-19 has forced us to get more creative in the way we spend our time, but in some ways, making the events more accessible as you can join from anywhere at any time. And of course, the big event that typically marks the end of spring semester here on campus. Mayfest will not be held in person this year, but that doesn't mean there won't be ways to celebrate. There will be Mayfest gear given out on the quad and smaller events to attend. With all this being said, there is light at the end of the tunnel as more New Yorkers get vaccinated and New York State develops new ways to ensure safely attending a movie, concert, or even the state fair. That's all I've got here for a COVID year in review entertainment edition. Doug, Daniel, back to you guys.
This half hour completes our final newscast here on Mornings on the Hill. With our final show, we would like to thank Professor Koblen, Professor Wenner, all the IAs, and all the people in the control room. Without you guys, the show wouldn't be possible.
And with this being said, that's going to do it for us this Wednesday here, Mornings on the Hill. Again, thank you to everybody who's made this possible. I'm Dan Baldwin. Make sure to follow us on social media.
And I'm Doug Cortez. Thanks for watching, Orange Nation. We'll see you next fall, right here on OTN.